not too many days after the fast was over, that Phil heard about the Flotilla and decided to take an extra step. And I can tell you that Phil's courage is exceeded only by his compassion. It's a real honor to know him and get to work with him. And I'm really proud to say he's a member of Veterans for Peace. Bill.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for coming. I'm still stepping into my voice along this journey because apparently it's needed, and everybody's voice is needed, and solidarity and action, and that was really shown within the Israeli detention centers that we were in. That when solidarity comes down to sticking up for one another, it works. Especially right now, because the axis of evil, the United States and Israel care about their perception, and the mask is not fully off yet. And so, as we countered their threat with solidarity, we got what we wanted. We watched them shrink. Let's have a rock fight. Let's do that. Let's see. Let's show your courage and watch what happens. They know what happens. But yeah, that's why I'm here. Sorry.
Keep trying.
But yeah, obviously, the next step after a fast is to go into Flotilla. It's a progression of being frustrated, of not being able to do something, to be out there with protest signs for years and years, and not just since the genocide, but before, and knowing that this was going to happen. That's why I took a sledgehammer to the wall before October 7th. In 2023, because I saw the writing on the wall, and so many Palestinians and people from around the world that have been begging for the world to pay attention. And so that's why I'm here. That's why we put our lives and liberty on the line, because no human's life is more important than another human. And so as these children are dying, as these children like and American citizens like Mohammed Ibrahim have been held in detention for 7 months and has lost like a third of his body weight. We have to get them home. And we experienced as a flotilla that detention for just less than a week, and we could not wait to get out. And the low-level abuse and torture that we endured, because they don't want to leave marks on us, and to have the stories told, because they care about right now perception still. It's just a fraction of what the Palestinians go through. And so how can we sit here in our privilege and say that my life or your life is more valuable than children's lives, or innocent women and innocent elderly and innocent men? Like, what is that question? We have to be able to sacrifice and put our lives and freedom on the line and do something. And as a member of Veterans for Peace, and as a veteran myself, right, I've served the empire. How can we not serve, especially the veterans and people that look like me? How can we not serve humanity right now in this time? And that's and being that and realizing that that's a privilege and a duty is to step our game up now, because again, that solidarity that takes place is powerful, and we have that power because they do not want their masks off now. And when we get to that time when they take their masks off, we cause them to expedite their timeline, and they make mistakes, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. But it is our duty. We've had the privilege for far too long, and have been watching this genocide for over 2 years now, and as well as the catastrophe, the Nakba, that's been ongoing for 77 years. And so, yeah, just to iterate that we need to act and disrupt. We saw the Italian workers do what they did, which really put pressure on, but to not relent in that pressure, because, right, the 2 Italian ships, that was all just a facade and appeasement to shutting down capitalism, which is the underlying cause of war. And we can get down to that and really talk about that, and how ending capitalism will end the war, because that is what all of this runs on, is profit. And it's the same thing with ICE detention centers and for-profit prisons and all the things that marginalized people have known is going on and have suffered. So this is why, like, they tell us what's important to them by taking away our free speech around criticizing Israel and criticizing through proxy the American government. They tell us through voting and gerrymandering, right, what's important. Voting matters. It does matter, but we have to get the right candidates in place for that to happen. But all of this matters. And so when we free Palestine, and this solidarity from all marginalized peoples, from the people, indigenous people of the United States, to our black siblings here that have been enduring this hatred and this racism the same way that Palestinians have. I equated it to the Israelis running these prisons, like the KKK running the prisons here. And that's exactly what's happening here, and has been happening. So these are all related. They are all related. And when we step up in solidarity, we save ourselves. When we related, they are all related. And when we step up in solidarity, we save ourselves. When we free Palestine, we free ourselves. And so that's what I'm here to say. And I have my experience of what we endured, and happy to share that, because I know people want to know. But really, it's about Palestinians. It's about the marginalized communities here, from indigenous and for all times, and it's white settler colonialism tied into capitalism. So, yeah, it is. Questions?
Any questions from the press? Questions from anyone else?
Is the second wave Flotilla available in your list? The people who came after being shipped on ships?
I wish I had that. I just got my phone working yesterday. So.
How would I not know your phone?
So that was one of the things is, right, we threw our phones into the sea. They took everything. They threw away all of our belongings, all of my belongings, and so just getting the data process right back, and that's just a small fraction, and another way for them to just be annoying and to make it a pain. But that was one of the things. So getting my life back together. Fortunately, I have support through organizations, and plugging into organizations is so crucial and critical, and the reason that I'm standing here right now. From the fast, and it was mainly a lone wolf deal for me for so long, yelling into the abyss. But to plug into these organizations, to connect the community, and to be ready and to get as organized and to out-organize the colonizers, the capitalists that have been organizing and are so well organized. And you see that in Israel and the way that it's playing out in the West Bank and the division. It's such their plan has come to fruition through a T. And so we're behind the game in organizing. So we need people to organize, to plug into organizations that you all align with, and to get going, and to have this solidarity and intersectionality amongst the organizations, and to not get caught up in this organization, this is the way we do things. No, it's putting the Palestinians first, and putting nationality, and we noticed that about 5 or 6 of our they had us separated by gender, men and women, and so and Chris O'More, who was my boatmate, who was an expat, but Norwegian, was traveling with a Norwegian passport, is still over there, and is just an incredibly beautiful soul. There are 2 Moroccans, and last I heard there was a Nigerian, Micah Vitalis, who was a cellmate of mine along the way. But I also know there's another name. But again, this is me not having information, and also being sleep deprived and catching up on sleep, and I still jet lag and all of that. So forgive me for not catching up with that. But yeah, I will, to get Chris back out. And not just Chris, but to go back. I want to go back over there and just hop on a boat from Egypt and just to get arrested so I can make sure that he's okay, because that's the kind of person and people that are over there, these beautiful, selfless people that are giving of themselves. And so for them to be there as we were getting on the buses and they were moved to our old cell block, and then for people to hear them screaming that they were put back in their cells.
You were in Kitsio prison, is that correct? That's in the Negev Desert, I believe. When you first arrived, did they separate you prior or after? Were you with any other your mates during the time that you were in the prison? And did you see any Palestinian prisons, or was that forbidden to see that? Can you tell us a little bit about how separated or together opportunities were for you during that time?
Yeah, I kind of don't want to tell them how stupid they are, but for allowing us to be amongst each other and to also exchange cells, and for us to be able to talk to people that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to talk to, like Tunisians that were beaten, and so to get the different stories from different people along the way was not really smart on their part. But no, we didn't. We were separated. We never saw Palestinian prisoners. I didn't know where we were being taken ahead of time, and that was on me for not doing the research. So I know there's a lot more research that I need to do in the prisons, but different things were said, and that that possibly we were on top of Palestinian prisoners, that we were above ground and they were below ground. But yeah, it was. There were about 20 cells per cell block. We were in 2 different cell blocks at different times. There were about 13 of us in each cell. There were 4 bunks per cell. So really, the rooms were 8 per cell, or it should have been 8 per cell with one bathroom, with a sink and a toilet. We weren't given any water, so we were given these little 4-ounce plastic cups that we would drink the tap water, which who knows what was in the water, but we drank because we had no other choice. There were about half of us were on hunger strike for the 5 days that we were actually in prison, but we were detained immediately. Right, we're out in international waters. The interceptions began at 9 p.m. Around 9 p.m. on October 1st. The boat that I was on, the Owaila, we made it to 47 miles away from Gaza, and we were intercepted at 4 a.m. Immediately surged, lasers, guns on us. We were put down below the deck for 12 hours as we went to Ashdod for processing. And once we got there, we were as boats came in, there were about 300 plus of us out on the loading dock, forced to sit down and kneel and not look up and be in certain and really uncomfortable positions for a total of 6 hours, but probably a couple of hours before Ben Gavir came to call us terrorists, and where multiple people were beaten, and we all did our fair share of yelling at him. I shut up as 3 Israeli cops rushed by me. So when they got there, I stopped. But tied, super tight, and high up on our backs, and forced to sit there on an incline, 20 degrees, which for people and their elderly people and people with different physical ailments being held in that way. And again, it's just a low level torture to what in comparison. And so then through processing, and then paddy wagons, some of us in cells, blindfolded, zip tied, and some people lost sensation, and as far as I know, haven't regained sensation in their hands, and just beaten for sticking up. There was the Tunisian that I was in the little 2.5 by 3 foot cell on the bus that was beaten for 25 minutes for holding up the for holding up the Palestinian flag and for saying free Palestine when Ben Gavir was there. And he thinks, he has a couple broken ribs, but there were, we were denied doctors, lawyers. It was a kangaroo court of a judge sitting there, but we haven't, to my knowledge, still been charged with anything, held illegally, intercepted illegally in international waters. And so, but I do want us to add to the beauty and the solidarity that when we were in the prisons and in the cells, the singing, then the different countries, the Turkish delegation just singing and harmonizing, and the Algerians, and just the beauty that came from that, and the call to prayers in the face of the Israeli prisoners, or the Israeli cops yelling and threatening for them to shut up, and just doing it out of Sumud and steadfastness and out of unconditional love, which is what brought us all there. And so, just as a reminder before I get to you, Dawn, that the pride is what has divided us from humanity, whether that's national pride, religious pride, racial pride, and not for the people that all of you that we're working on unconditional love, right? But that pride and love in those contexts cannot coexist. That unconditional love is the master that we serve, right? Where pride and hatred and all of that divides from that unconditional love and leads us on a different path is how we're here. And to get back to looking at these children, not just as Palestinians, but as human beings first. And that's where we need to get back to, and for people to not value our privilege and our lives more than what's happening, and to realize that together we do make a difference in this solidarity. For example, on the microcosm, Don, I promise I'm coming to you, but the medication that were denied diabetics, the insulin, there was someone that was denied their heart medicine and could have had a heart attack at any moment. But realizing along the way that they weren't ready to take the mask off, and that their threats were empty, minus the beatings. And we have that privilege, right, where the Palestinians don't have that privilege. But that we got them their medicine through our act of defiance and solidarity. And so it does make a difference. It does.
What did the apartheid Israelis do with the goods, with the infant formula and the other goods that you all had brought?
We don't know that based on past behavior, right, that destroy it is what happens. And we were being asked that, and as our stuff is being thrown away in front of us, as we're being lied to and told how amazing Israel is, they just, there's no compassion there.
Of course.
And they want to send a message. We were asked why we didn't, and by the Italian government too, why we didn't just hand over the aid to Israel. I think all of us in this room know why. It's because it gets destroyed and it gets used as PR. They'll take the footage that they need to lie to and deceive to their people, their audience, because they know that their audience is never going to go fact check and go research on their own. So it's what we see with Trump and the lies. Doesn't care that he's lying. He knows he's lying, but he knows that his audience, his cult followers, aren't going to go and research the truth.
It was also my understanding that that the Pope also offered to take the aid off your hands, if I recall correctly. I think Greg Stoker also went into that.
Even though I was on the same boat as Greg, there was so much going on. There was also a lot of like communication on that front. So I just specifically to that one, I don't know. But Greg knows what he's talking about. So
I see.
So, like, from what I heard with, like, the experience of other people that were talking to U.S. Embassy people, like, what was your experience there? Because, I just want to make sure the news has this on record right here that the U.S. Embassy was treating you this way.
yeah, the U.S. Embassy was worthless, absolutely worthless, and failed us as they do the State Department. One of the collective laughs that we all had as the 20 whatever delegates as we were seeing our consulate for the first time when they said that they have no jurisdiction or power over here. It was just a collective laugh, like really, when all these other consulates of supportive nations, right, are bringing their delegates, their constituents, water, bottled water and food and snacks, like at least like during that time, for people that weren't on hunger strike, but bottled water, like something, and to have something else other than these like juvenile handouts like, that we could do something with. It was just a failure, and even being released into that was not our first. That was those were our first contacts. But when we were deported to Jordan, and to see the level of reception again from the other embassies to their people and how they were taken care of. Like, I don't even think we had transportation arranged from our delegation, and the Jordanians had to like come through with a bus for us. And so we kind of did a mutiny against our our representative. She wanted us to go to the airport and then go to the hotel that we had found on our own. And so she went in her own car and we were in the bus, and we were like, is anybody going to the airport? No. Okay. And so let her know that we were going to the hotel, and that was the last we saw of her. So yeah, failure, and by intention. So thank you for that.
How did you get started in your activist journey, like, and just interest in, like, Palestine? How do you go from, being in the military to where you are now?
That's a really good question and a multifaceted question, and lots of different factors. And that process for me began in 2010 to go from to researching, to go from to being asked and being prodded and something, because I've been passionate even on the wrong side. And so being prompt, that was kind of like the prompt that caused me to dive off and do my own research, came out of passion of defending my prior beliefs, but then coming across the truth and never coming back in one rabbit hole after another rabbit hole. But specifically with Palestine and Gaza in 2014, the massacres that were occurring in Gaza that were on my radar from doing research. And that research began in part by following the money of the donors, of our supposed representatives, right? And also growing up in that environment of the good old boy club, of my great-grandfather being friends with LBJ, of the power of like my brother-in-law and my nephew's godmother being Ashley Kavanaugh, right? And seeing the good old boy club network and knowing how it operates, and knowing that the narcissists that are the politicians are self-serving only. And so watching them, the same donors donate across the aisles, AIPAC and Kufi and so many more, the oil companies and the weapons companies and the real estate lobby, is all about the money and what serves them. They don't serve the people. They don't do what we're doing, and their actions tell you. So hollow words and words filled with fluff. No, like if your words aren't if our words aren't backed with actions and filled with actions, hollow, empty, meaningless. I don't care what you say, how many times you say it. The ceasefire thing is so watered down. Like, why put any hope and any trust into Trump's lies? We have to, and it's a strategy, right? A stalling tactic, and we keep getting here. And by trusting these people that have showed us time and time again that they're liars and that they only operate through self-centeredness, and they're not selfless, and they are not like us.
So it's clear that you continue planning on organizing and advocating for the Palestinian cause. I know you just got back, but are there plans to launch another flotilla or try and break that, the Israeli siege or any of, what's next?
Yeah.
And how can we support you in that?
Thank you. I don't know. I mean, the next opportunity, I think sailing like October's done for the Mediterranean. It's for sailing season, and I think April is kind of the first launch in the spring that would be able to. There's a lot that can happen between now and then, and that we need to do between now and then, and not just wait for the flotilla aspect of it and pressuring, right? Because again, this was a civilian-led deal where our governments have failed, and so pressuring our governments by disrupting the economic system that is capitalism to causing, right? Because that's the only thing that they care about is once we hit the pocketbooks of the corporations and do that in a sustainable way, right? It's and then getting to that point of the 3% of the population that's needed for this revolution. Like, we need to get there, and people need to understand that these are unprecedented times, but also we're repeating history, and we are in Nazi Germany 2.0, and we need to catch up fast to their organizing levels. But I'd say really sacrificing and disrupting and getting out of your comfort zone of privilege, and really getting back to remembering what it's like to suffer, because there's such a separation of it's been a while for a lot of people of sacrifice and suffering, and to get back into remembering what that's like, because the Palestinians, not only just the Palestinians, but right, the Palestinians have been suffering immensely and exponentially over these last 2 years, daily, with no reprieve from it. How often do we have reprieve from suffering in our daily lives? And why? What is that? Right? Like, asking ourselves, like, why am I okay with being in this privilege while this Palestinian that I don't know, that's across the world, that's a child, right? And it's empathizing. It's putting, like, I have 2 children, right? So it's easy for me, and about the same age as Mohammed Ibrahim, it's easy for me to be my son, and why am I not fighting as hard? Because I have that privilege. And also finding a way, right, and organizing for mutual aid and support for these actions and stuff, because it is a privilege to be able to leave and not have income coming in during this time, to do that and to support each other, and that's why organizing is so important. And to get back maybe to your question on how I got involved in that was by Mike reaching out and meeting at a protest, right? So that there is that in the protest, which I feel like at this level is the bare minimum, right? But at least there's the community and the networking that happens at the protest. It's a step, right? And so that's where that step, especially as introduction, go to protests, meet people, and then you're going to be vetted, as you should, because infiltrators and whatnot. But do your time, like, show your face, show your support and your heart, right? And then things, magical things can happen, like the fast and of me plugging into Veterans for Peace and being supported and having my heart heard, and just really getting back to being vulnerable and sacrificing.
I'd just like to mention too, the
person who asked a question about how we support what else you're going to be doing and what else can we do. I know a lot of people here have been out on the streets doing stuff regularly and consistently. But I wanted to just mention that if people are interested in taking it up a notch, there was 6 of us last week that got arrested for blocking Senator Husted's office downtown Toledo. And I would love to have enough people do what Phil was talking about disrupting. I'd love to have enough people believe in doing some serious disrupting and shut down more than just an entranceway to a senator's office. I mean, you've seen on the news media in Italy, they're shutting down the whole country. I mean, we're probably not going to do that anytime soon, but there's a lot bigger way we can disrupt business as usual here in Toledo if there's more of us that are willing to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and the cheesy little sign-up sheets that we sent around, if you would be good enough to put your name and email on there as a way that we can start keeping in touch, that would be great. Those are moving their way around slowly. I'm John, excuse me, any other questions? Okay. I'm Judd, wanted to announce a film coming up.
Yes. Hi, my name is Amjad Dumani. I'm the founder of the Media Decompression Collective, and our organization is bringing Phillip Tottenham to Toledo. It is going to be the premiere. And speaking of disrupt, this film is called it's called To Kill a War Machine. And it's about a UK activist group who has taken it to the next level to disrupt the war machine, and they're called Palestine Action. That group has been, since they've started their next level disruptions, they have been tagged by the British government as a terrorist organization. Because what the British government found was that when, before they tagged them as a terrorist organization, when they were arrested, and I should let you know before I tell you what happened in the courts, the group took it upon themselves to target Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli company that manufactures drones, arms, munitions, and they have factories around the world and some in England. So these activists took it on their own because they got tired of just protesting in the streets and writing their representatives. It was not making any changes in the government and the policy towards Palestine. So they went to these factories, they broke in, they monkey wrenched the equipment, they destroyed it, they picked up files that documented their complicity in the genocide and all of that. So that's when they were taken to court, and they were always being found not guilty because the courts, by their peers, jury of their peers, were finding that the reason they were doing it was of higher moral value and interest than the fact that they broke into a building and so forth. But then they tagged them as a terrorist organization, and now they are languishing in prison because they don't get to be tried by a jury of their peers. So this film, To Kill a War Machine, was banned in the UK. It had originally been given clearance by the BBC and about to be put on BBC channels, but then through pressure from the government, they rescinded that and they banned the film.
So when is this?
So thank you. So I've been in contact with the directors, and we're going to show the film here on October 28th. That's Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the Downtown Library McMaster Center. It's free and open to the public. There's a Facebook event page and an Instagram announcements on social media under MDC, Media Decompression Collective. So you can go there and share them, tell us that you're coming. But it's Tuesday, October 28th from 6 to 8, and there'll be a short period of Q&A afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Jeff?
Okay. Hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm with American Muslims for Palestine, Toledo chapter.
And we first wanted to just give a really big thank you and appreciation. To follow up, just like some other action items that are going on in town, today at 3 o'clock at the Sylvania Library, we have a event dedicated to the during this war. So just come and, process that with us, and just honor the lives lost. And then also on October 19th, we have a special guest coming from out of town who's Miko Peled. He is an ex-IDF soldier. He's an American author, an activist, and he'll be coming in to talk about truth and justice. And that's going to be at Lord's University in the Franciscan Center from 11 to 1 o'clock, October 19th. And we have a few flyers up here if you'd like to grab one. Thank you, and thank you so much.
Wanted to mention, I can't wait to see Miko Pellet. I've been reading his book and know of him. He's with a group called Combatants for Peace, and Jasmine mentioned he's former IDF. And the Combatants for Peace is paired with Palestinian fighters over many years now, and they go out in teams and they talk about their decisions to give up violence as a way of trying to make change. And it's a really powerful message. So that's on the 19th, if you can make that. Any other final words before we close up? I just want to thank you very, very much for coming. It's wonderful to see this many people here. Please leave your name and email if you'd like us to keep in touch. Phil, any last words?
No, just on Miko, I was able to see him talk years ago and met him on one of his book signing tours, The General's Son, but he has a lot to say, really smart, and I think his grandfather
It's a general.
was
His grandson died in the war. But his father was a general in the Israeli army.
and I think what a co-founder,
Yes.
signer. So yeah, don't miss it if you.
And there's a book sale for him. He's going to be signing books.
Great.
I'd like to be there.
But the only last thing that I had as far as addressing Zionists and maybe the the prison guards that were there was you could tell the ones that had a little bit of humanity left in them that hadn't been brainwashed since birth, right? But it was really apparent to me because there was shaming on both sides and because of the bullying and the abuse that we went through. But to really bring it back to those deep questions when you sense a little bit of humanity left in those people is not to give up on that and to ask those deep penetrating questions like I asked and that other people asked of like, why do you have such cold hearts? And when was the last time that you weren't taught hatred? And to get it back to those questions of where they've conflated their morals with nationalism to their religion, to those parts of religion like Moses and that matter to them, to the Ten Commandments, and asking those questions for the people that have the intellectual capacity to entertain those questions and have that little bit of humanity, because maybe shaming has its phase and its cycle that's needed, but it doesn't work in the long run. And so, education is part of that. This disrupting, yes, but I'd say just not to disrupt, but to educate along with the disruption. Why are we at, Chevron, for example, like one of the major profiteers of the genocide, right? Like, go to and organize a red action, right? An arrestable action, but have the talking points, have the social media points, have the education points ready for the media to go and to get organized instead of just doing actions to do actions and not having a strategy or a goal in mind, but it's to get out, get uncomfortable, and to plug in and do as much as you can. And just thank you so much for the support. That meant the world to us, and to be able to get back safely to the extent that we have, and we need to expedite that and amplify that, and 10,000 plus.
Norway have beat the shit out of them, smashed them, and the Norwegian fan is not gonna sleep tonight. They will knock them, they will frack them up. The apple was promised to him.